Good evening, my friends. Today we will talk about the poem Strange Meeting written by Ulfhed Owen. And Ulfhed Owen was born in 1893. He was an English poet and he was born in England. And he took part in the First World War and he just died 1 week before the war was over. So he just had a very short lifespan, which was 25 years. And within that time period, he wrote some famous poems, and Strange Meeting is one of them. And his topic of the poem was the brutality and the true picture and the realistic picture of the world. And he just discards the usual romantic notions about war, and he came with a more realistic approach of the bitterness of the world. Like all the poets and other writers, and they try to glorify war. They take it a kind of patriotism. Those who fight for his country, and they just keep on saying that fight for justice. So they try to romanticize the uh, war in their different ways. But contrary to them, just Ulfhed Owen came with a different type of notion and ideas, which was very realistic and which was very reasonable and justified. So, so much about the writer, about the poet. Now we will go straight into the poem. So, Strange Meeting. Strange Meeting. I will just give a thorough reading of the poem, and then I will get into the elaboration and discussion. It seemed that out of battlefield I escaped down some profound dull tunnel, long since scooped through grains which titanic words had groaned, yet also their encumbered slippers groaned, too fast in thoughts or death to be bestirred. Then as I probed them, one sprang up and stared with piteous recognition in fixed eyes, lifting distressful hands as if to bless, and by his smile I knew that sullen hall. By his dead smile I knew we stood in hell. With a thousand fears that vision's face was grained, yet no blood reached there from the upper ground, and no guns thumped or down the flues made moan. Strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. None, said that other, save the undying years, the hopelessness. Whatever hope is yours was my life also. I went hunting wild after the wildest beauty in the world, which lies not come in eyes and braided hair, but mocks the steady running of the hour, and if it grieves richer than hair. For by my glee might many men have loved, and of my weeping something had been left. So this much is the half of the poem. Today we will talk about half of the poem, because if you want to cover the entire poem within one video, then it will be a very big one. So uh, it will be very boring and tiresome. So I just divided this poem into two parts, and we will talk today about this much only. Okay, so let's come to the discussion. I will try to elaborate, and I will try to exemplify all the points, relevant points. Anyway, so the poem is written. One of the important points that is very important to be mentioned. It is that the poem is written in pararhyme. So what is a pararhyme? Pararhyme means at the end of each lines there is a matching sound but in that case, the sound of the consonants are same, but the vowels are changed. So that is called this type of matching or this type of balance in the poem is called pararhymes or half rhymes. Okay, so I hope this little sort of information will be good for you, will be beneficial for you. And another more thing that I should be telling you that you have to find out the person who coined the pararhyme. Okay, so now get into the poem. I'm just getting the poem. It seemed that out of battle I escaped, down some profound dull tunnel, and long since scooped through grains which titanic words had groaned. Okay, so the poet himself is talking about his situation, and he is just giving a kind of his condition, and it is obviously that it seems that the poet has somehow escaped from the battlefield, and he has taken shelter in some underground tunnels. So the poet is telling that it seemed to the poet that he somehow escaped. He just ran away from the battlefield, and he just absconded from the battlefield, and mm, he entered into to take shelter. He just get into some underground tunnels, and these tunnels were very deep and very profound, and these tunnels were scooped out, or these tunnels were dug or created or formed uh, during the Titanic wars. Means Titanic, it's a mythological war, I think so, and that time it was created, or it was made by cutting the granites. So granites, it's a kind of rock. So breaking the rocks, this type of tunnels were this type of chamber, or this type of cave were created to escape or to take shelter, maybe. So this is the creation of some past war which took place some years ago, and it worked as a kind of halt for the soldiers who were trying to escape and looking for some shelter for out of their life. Okay, so this much for that. And next stanza. Yet also their encumbered sleepers groaned, too fast in their thoughts, or dead to be pestered. So, after getting into the poem, after working a little while inside the tunnel, the poet at the end of the tunnel, the poet just came across or had encounter with some dead bodies of some soldiers, and they were just huddled together, and there was a crowd of the dead bodies, and the poet describes them as sleepers. Maybe that at the beginning the poet could not realize that these are the dead bodies of the soldiers. That's why he mentioned like sleepers, and they were groaning. So generally the dead person, they never create any sound from their mouth, but they were groaning out of pain. So the dead soldiers, actually it's a kind of what to say, it's a kind of imagination, or I will just come with the word. Just wait for a second. Yeah, so the word is fantasy. The poet had a strong fantasy that it seemed to the poet that the sleepers, they were huddled together, and they were groaning. They were creating some sound from their mouth. It is obviously because of the pain they were suffering, or they had some excruciating pain. which is obviously from the injury that they have received during the war. And they were first in their thoughts or dead to be bested. So they were very much thoughtful. They were traumatized after the very after witnessing the very devastating and dangerous and let us say cruel and shocking picture of the uh, war or of the massacre of the war. So they were traumatized and they had mental aberration. They were astonished and after witnessing the horrific scenario of the war. They were engaged in their thought. Their minds were occupied with that thought, and so they in that thought, the thought uh, played away their courage, and they were too weak to move their body. They could not have their hands and legs became immobile, so they were stuck one place. That's why it has been said that they were blistered. They were immovable. Okay, so this is the thing. Next line. Then as I probed them, one sprung up and stared with piteous recognition and fixed eyes. So as the poet were examining the dead bodies, one of the dead soldiers just just woke up and jumped in front of him and stood erect in front of him and stared into his eyes, eyes of the poet. And in his eyes there was a expression of piteous expression, and it seemed that the uh, soldier who just sprang up was able to recognize the poet. It seemed that he was one of the acquaintance of the poet. He earlier knew the poet, and his eyes were fixed. It means that the eyes of the dead body never moves, but it may be that he was just gazing at the poet with a fixed expression and fixed eyes. And in his eyes there were some languages, maybe, I think so. So next, lifting distressful hands as if to bless, and by his smile I knew that Sullen Hall. So afterwards, after this encounter and silent exchange of thoughts between them and words between them, the dead soldier or the soldier number 2 tried to lift his hand, and his hands were distressful, means painful, and laden with stress. So he could not move his hand, but he tried to move it, and he just tried to. The intention of the movement of his hand was to bless. It was to bless the poet, and he just give a smile, and it is very strange, that dead person can give a smile. So, but like I said, it is a very strong fantasy of the poet. So it has been said that the dead soldier gave a smile, and his smile, the poet could read his smile, and from his smile, the poet realized that he was standing in the Salen Hall. So Salen means a very gloomy place, dark place, and this Salen Hall is actually representing the hell. So the poet had got the notion that he was standing in the hell. By his dead smile, I knew that he stood in hell. He stood in hell. So, like I said, that his smile, the smile of the dead soldier, made the poet realize that he was standing in hell. So, already 14 minutes, brothers and sisters. Should I continue? Okay. I think more 2 or 5 lines I will try to continue. Okay. So try to explain or elaborate for you people. With 1,000 fears, that vision's face was grinned, and no blood reached their from the upper ground. So when the dead soldier sprung in front of the poet, and he was just standing erect, unmoved before the soldier, before the poet. So the poet just looked into his face, and he had got some idea and notion about his mental capacity or mental state. So his facial expression said to the poet that his face was aged with different types of pains and agonies and miseries, maybe which is very intensive pain, severe pain, or excruciating pain. So to intensify that the strongness of the power of the pain, the poet has mentioned the word the thousand fears. No, he had thousand fears. So, like I said already, that the dead soldiers who are huddled in the chamber or the what is called the tunnel, they are traumatized already because of the pathetic and the horrific scenario they have come across, which is very shocking and which is very fearful, which is very cruel. So they had some mental aberration, and they were like uh, they were hypnotized, and they were phobic. So they terror struck them. So I can say like that. So their heart stood still, and they were numb. Fixed eyes, fixed legs, immovable body organs. So this is the thing. So the thousand fears painted the poet face. The soldier's face. Here, Bhishma means the dead soldier. Okay. So his face was etched with a thousand fears, and obviously the pain of the fear. Yet no blood reached there from the upper ground. So upper ground means the battlefield, where the battle is right now taking place, and from there no bloodshed came into this profound tunnel. Even after that, the dead soldiers are panic-stricken. They cannot feel free in the tunnel, though they are very safe because they are away from the war, and the cruelty of the horrible situation of the horror of the war cannot reach there. It also doesn't have any access to that tunnel, because the tunnel is a hell, and where the dead soldiers are living there. So, like we all know that we don't have any access to the world of the dead. So they should be very relaxed and calm. But even after that, their face is etched with pain, and they are traumatized. Okay, so now the next line. But no guns thumped or down the fuels made moan. So, like I said, in the battlefield, the soldiers are using guns, and the sound of the bullets or the gun firing is not reaching through the airy lines of the tunnel. They are not audible inside the tunnel. So even after that, it is very calm and relaxing ambience and atmosphere inside the tunnel. But even after that, the soldiers' faces are etched with pain and horror. Strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. I said to him, the dead soldier, my good friend, my unknown friend, why are you looking so sad and melancholy? Because there is nothing to mourn in this atmosphere, in this chamber of yours. There is nothing to mourn, there is no fear. Then why you are doing like this? So he replied, none, said the other. Save the undying years. But if I just speak about the undone years means those years when the soldiers were alive, and they had their future planning, they had their family, so they could not complete, or they could not fulfill their family life. So suddenly, all of a sudden they died, so they had to leave things behind. and that's why the poet is saying that undone years. So the works remains incomplete, and obviously the words were wasted in the battlefield. The hopelessness, uh, whatever hope is yours, was my life also. And now again the Dead Soldier is trying to say that the poet might have some beautiful dream in his life about future, and the poet is in the Dead Soldier is trying to say that he also had same sort of future planning or family life and all that, but his life was snatched by the war. So the war is very disastrous and very detrimental for humankind, very harmful. So this much for today, my dear friends. I just wanted to continue more, but I'm just feeling sleepy, so I cannot record with a consistency. For that reason, I'm just stopping here. So please don't mind, my dear brothers and sisters. I hope you will understand my inadequacy and take me in your mercy, grant me in your mercy, and I just appeal to your good senses. My dear brothers and sisters, please do subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon, and if possible, please like the video. And I will try my best. I will give my best. I will give my best endeavor to come with other videos, which is obviously about the some English poems and essays and short stories and dramas and all that. So, and this poem just I was giving explanation. A strange meeting. So a big part of that poem is incomplete. So in the next video, I will try to complete that remaining part. Okay. So that's all for today. Hope to see you, my dear brothers and sisters. Hope to see you. Have a nice time. Bye bye.